Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. I'm super excited to have our special guest today, Liat Berko. She's here with us. I would like to introduce her. Her website is Liat, LIATBERKO.com, where you could find out about all the different offerings. Liat is a renowned relationship coach and meta life coach. She's a healer. She specializes in helping individuals and couples live consciously aligned lives filled with passion, love, and self acceptance. Welcome, Liad. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you, Rina. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Thank you. So let's get started. I know that your main focus is working with couples on healing their relationship. So what does that look like? If a couple is struggling and coming to you, what sort of work do you do with them?
The first stage is really through therapy talks. I understand we took an intake session. We talk about what's going on. I also really can quickly feel what's going on. And then we don't waste too much time about talking. And then we go into more experiencing positive communication, loving communication. I'm translating because I understand both the men and the woman, so I'm translating them to each other, and then they can see each other in their own in a different light. And then we go into exercises, eye gazing, um, facing each other, uh, touching each other. I give them exercise at home to do. A lot of embodiment, somatic practices and like exploring life together because most of the couples today it's terrible but they're really live they live separately.
I was just about to ask you,
Mm.
what have you seen from your experience is something that's really common that a lot of people come to you for?
So most of the time it's like the man is overwhelmed and stressed by work so he doesn't have a time to breathe, and the woman is overwhelmed with the kids and the house and everything else and work as well. So they don't have time. They don't have time to be present with each other. And that's the number one, just to be, just to yeah, share, yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just to be there and look at each other, it's becoming impossible. First of all, because you have the phones that are number one, misuch, masach. It's taking you away from being in a present moment.
Mm-hmm.
But second of all, it's like the attention is not there, the intention is not there. So the energy flow in different directions. So what I tend to do is really bring back the energy, the focus into one other,
Mm-hmm.
reshape them, reprogram them, basically.
Mm-hmm. And have you seen results? Like, what does that look like on the other side? What does a healthy relationship look like that you try to guide them towards?
Well, I'm experiencing one right now. I'm in Perek Bet, my second chapter of my life. I've been through a very harsh divorce, and this is what I do. Why? Why? That's my big why. I really research into a lot. If it's through studies, learning with rabbis, learning sexual healing, and it all starts with really speaking your truth, communication, being like not afraid of telling what you feel, you really feel. Because
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, either we try to please or we don't want to say what we think or whatever blockages we have out there, it doesn't let us express ourselves fully. And people are, first of all, they're not allowing themselves, or they have a partner that is suppressing that. So when I do the work with the couples, I first teach them how to regain power to themselves in a way, not regain power, but reconnect to their self realization, and then realize the couplehood together. So what I'm experiencing is a lot of communicative talks, even if sometimes, but all about emet, the truth. Like, and even sometimes it can hurt, but you say it, it's on the table. And then the other one knows how you feel really. And then from there, when there is, Yemima says, when there is a Havana, there is a Biniya. You can build on, when there is a strong foundation, you start building up more Havanot. Havanot is understanding. So the
Mm-hmm.
more you understand each other, more you can build up on that. And really, touch is super important because everyone want to be loved. And what I see also is that people don't love themselves, especially the woman. Usually the men, they're very like, oh, I'm good. I don't need to be fixed. They're really complete the way they are. Even if they're ugly or fat or whatever it is, they're much they're loving themselves much more than women than what we do. So main of the work is with the woman on that aspect. And then we're also very hormonic, we're like we're going in waves
Mm-hmm.
in our body. So to regulate the energy centers in our body is also another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that
How
I'm
how do you do that? How do you help them regulate their energy centers?
So it's a somatic work of body, mind, and soul. So
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning, we talk about things, we identify them, we learn, we see where they are. We feel the blockages in the body, and then we go there and we bless you. And then we got them and we release it through the body, if it's through your vocal, through body movement, singing, dancing, all the good stuff, moving the hips, because most of the trauma is stored over there. Jumping, before I got on the Zoom with you, I went to my trampoline and I jumped 200 times, and
Wow.
really getting my flow back to myself, because
Mm-hmm.
our energy is like static, we don't move much, especially
Mm-hmm.
here in Florida. When I was in New York, I was walking everywhere, but
Yeah.
here in Florida, you get so lazy.
You just go from the car to the car. You actually have to
Exactly.
drive to a place where you can go walking, right?
So moving, when there is motion, you have to bring motion into your life. Otherwise, you're getting stuck and blockages are starting appearing in your body. And that's what prevents you from advancing.
That's so interesting. So you're saying that what might a person might experience in a psychological, emotional way can be cleared out through movement, through the physical, right?
Definitely. And
Yeah.
a lot of it also through your voice,
Mm-hmm.
because we're made of energy, right? And when we have frequency that we radiate, and when we do some vocalism, like and you go like that, so you're actually vibrating your own essence, your own being. And through that, you can actually release a lot of stuff. So when people are actually praying, they do it automatically. When they go like that, they're doing automatic. That's a change of energy. And that's why prayer is bringing a lot of release, a lot of removing of blockages. So
Mm-hmm.
when you adjust it in your day by day, you're able to move more smoothly, and it's like going with the flow.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting you brought that up because I found for me recently that I prefer praying out loud. It used to be that I would do a lot of my praying just like, quietly, like softly, whatever. But now I find that I either pray out loud or sing a lot of the parts because that feels the most connecting to me, right? Um,
There is a difference, and that can show that you're much more self-expressing yourself, because there is a difference between murmuring or saying shalom aleichem al kol haolam kulo, and to mean it and to pray it and to
yeah.
say it loud. It's like
Yeah.
there's
With
such
intention, it's
an
very
intention.
powerful.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I told you about this that I want to start a song circle or
Yes.
I'm working on developing a song circle because I feel like there's so much power in doing it as part of a group, right? Of bringing people together to release that energy through sound and singing, but also in a holy container where it's more about like singing as a spiritual practice, just like we do when we daven in shul. But I find as women, we don't really have that space to really fully express ourselves in davening in a formal shul environment to create a space for that because I think that it's such a powerful portal, like sound is such a powerful portal, and we don't really have that many opportunities to express in that way. And I think that as a mom, I can see that, kids naturally do that.
Yeah,
Right? They're
yeah.
always singing and expressing. Like, I feel like that's our natural self. We can learn so much about what it means to be a whole person by looking at our children because they are so naturally just like vibrating and, you know, expressing themselves naturally.
And they're not programmed as we are.
Yeah.
They don't carry shame, they don't carry guilt, they don't carry fear. So they're allowed to express themselves the way they want, the way they feel. But then what happens? We as parents come and we start telling them, Shh, no, don't do that, or
Mm.
forbidden, or that. So that's how we shut down the expression of who we are, and that's how we create a society that is actually deprived of being who we are, of
Mm-hmm.
being who they are, you know?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's why I homeschool one of my children is because I felt like my son was in an environment that was not recognizing how incredible he is. I mean, didn't recognize how incredible he is, and I felt like it was squashing his energy rather than releasing it and nurturing it and really allowing him to blossom. It was like everyone needs to be exactly the same. It was just like, and it's such a gift that we live in a generation where homeschooling is so accessible and doable that you can see the shift that children need to be outside, children need to be musical, they need to be artistic, they need to be active. Like
Okay.
they don't need to sit at a desk for 10 hours, or
Yes,
8 hours,
I'm
right?
with you on that. Yes, I'm with you on that, and I'm with you on the women's circle. Sign me up. I'm with you on that.
Awesome.
We're vibrating the same
Same
direction.
for you. So I think, did you tell me once that you were a singer or a vocalist
Yes,
in the past?
I was. I grew up as one. That was my dream, actually. And I have a romance with being on stage and behind the stage, and on stage and behind the stage. So most of my life, I've been on stage until when I came to, I was in a choral and in, groups in Israel. I was performing in Yom Ha'atzmaut on a huge stage. And then I had a band and we were going from town to town to perform. And we got very lucky because our drummer was one-handed. And he was like playing the drums with one hand, like Deep Flapper.
Wow.
So it got us to the news and to TV and all that. So we got very lucky and very famous. And then I came to America. So I shut down that dream. But with the years, I actually did landmark education
Yeah, I love Landmark.
like 3 years, and that really regained to me all the passion, all the love that I had for music. And I became actually a producer of music live shows. And I
Nice.
started bringing all the Israeli musicians that I adore, and I gave them a stage in the United States.
That's amazing.
So I really
Do you still do that or that was something that you did before?
So I'm not doing that anymore. Since Corona, I actually was shut. My business got shut down. I had the privilege to host a very big show of Shlomo Artzi. Do you know who he is?
Yeah, of course.
Madison Square Garden for 5,000 people.
Wow, that's
That was
amazing.
my biggest ever event. But then when Corona happened, I had to, like, everything was planned ahead for a year and I had to shut it down. And this is when I experienced my spiritual awakening. And I stopped doing everything and I just started studying and studying and studying and studying and connecting to Hashem and
Wow.
like
So tell me about that. What activated that spiritual awakening? What were you doing at that time that got you there?
So I'll never forget it. It was March 14, 2020, the Thursday of COVID when they announced it on the news. I came home, I was divorced, and I was in my own with the two kids. And I guess that I had a panic attack or something like that, and an anxiety attack. And I thought that I was going to swallow my tongue. So I had to really come up to my mental and bring like signals of everything is okay with you, everything is okay with you, and really like talk to myself like NLP. I didn't know that I was doing NLP to myself.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I regain contact to self, and all was because I was overwhelmed with all those groups and WhatsApps and news and all that. So that was Thursday and Friday. Me as a non-religious at all, I just put all the electronics on the side and I start baking challah, which I never did before, and I was 45. I start lighting candles for all Am Israel and the whole world and praying. My mom thought that was I was like hit by a I don't know.
Wow.
And
Because
then
up until that point, you weren't okay.
secular, completely
Hmm.
secular. And then I kept the sort of a technical Shabbat. So I removed all the technology from my life for 25 hours.
Amazing.
And then I start really connecting. And first time I saw my son's soul, and I was able to communicate with him on a different level.
Mm.
And then I experienced nature because I was on the water, and I start looking at things like clear, you know? And I start getting elevated into the feelings of existence. And then I was like, okay, so I want Shabbat to happen every day now. Like I love that feeling.
Mm.
So I was waiting for Shabbat to continue that. And and it was like and then I started taking shiurim and classes and evolving into spirituality. And I had the whole thing with sharing my thoughts online. And then a person came to me and is like, "You're talking like Yemima." And I'm like, "Who is Yemima?" And then I start researching about her. And I see that everything that she's is written from her is actually what I think. So I start exploring into that. And I studied, actually, I'm the only one who studied with her son directly. And I'm going, like 5 years forward. Today I'm teaching it, and this is my passion. It's like
That's amazing.
I evolve.
It's so interesting how you were self-directed, right? Like that it came from you, like on your own.
Yeah, but we're never self-directed. It's coming from above, from my higher self. I
Mm-hmm.
think that I think that it's like God was talking through me, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt his presence because what you need is just to connect to yourself. Once you're connecting to yourself, he's going to show up. He's going to show up, he's going to show you the way, and he's going to lead you to wherever you have to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the bitachon, that emunah that is still growing on me every day is something that I have the zchut to experience because I feel like I really awaken from a bad dream.
Mm.
Mash.
What a gift that you had that. Can you tell the people listening who Yemima was and what her teachings are about to read? This is really an opportunity to introduce a lot of people to Yemima who would have never heard of her.
Yes, so Yamima was Mekubelet al Mekubalim. She was the only woman that really big rabbis were recognizing. She was a healer. She was from Morocco. And she really had a wisdom of Torah Shebe'al Peh that was coming from above. And she was a psychologist and a teacher and a spiritual teacher. And she had students coming to listen to her in shiurim in her classes, and they felt that they were really really healing and getting the shlom bait and strengthening their relationship with themselves, with their partners. And she became like not a guru, but a lot of people started following her, and her words became text that her students wrote, and that became a method. So today it's very known in Israel, Shitat Yemima Chashiva Karatit, which is the consciousness thinking.
Mhm.
And all her texts are in Hebrew, and it touched my soul so deeply that I decided to bring it to the United States. And when I'm reading her text in Hebrew, I translating them in English as much as I can in the moment of truth to really leshamer, to keep the original form of text with the Hebrew, because the Hebrew, the power of our letters is so powerful, and
Mhm.
it's all related, that and it's very challenging to actually translate it, but I'm doing the best I can so people can gain as much as they can from it. And I sometimes, when I was learning it, studying it, it was really a study that was touching my soul, and I would start crying. And crying is healing. So it was touching my heart, it was touching my soul, and I really felt that I was like shaping up to be something much more clear, clean, you know,
Mhm.
um, and elevated.
What would you say are some of the core concepts or teachings of Yemima that you really resonate with? Like, if people wanted to learn more about her and her approach, what is unique? What do you think her contribution is that stands out from some other people of like how she helped people raise their consciousness?
At the end of the day, everything is the same.
Mm.
It's just told differently.
Hmm.
By the
Do you think you resonated with her because she comes from a similar background? I know like that's one of the things that appealed to me when I discovered Yamima. I was like, what? A Moroccan Kabbalah teacher, healer. I was like, oh my gosh, like as a woman, I always look for things like that. It's so rare to find it.
It's the same eshkol of neshamot. It's the, how do you say it in English? It's the
Cluster, like a cluster or a
cluster of
group.
souls, yes, that are connected together. So we all gonna have the same study, the same story of, of how to elevate, but in a different format. So
Hmm.
this format, because I'm Moroccan, because I sensed it in my whole essence, was so appealing to me that I related, and that's what really got me like much quicker
Hmm.
to gravitate toward her teaching. And yeah, and I didn't know that. Only after that I realized she was Moroccan. When I explored, and I was like, who's this Yamim? I have to really research into her.
What's
And
her last name if I wanted to look up her bio?
Yamima Avital. Everybody confused
Avital.
her with Yemima Mizrahi, which is the Rabbanit that is
Yeah.
live and kicking, but
Yeah.
it's not Yemima Mizrahi, it's Yemima Avital.
Hmm.
Is a tzaddiket, and she already passed away, זיכרונה לברכה. Her Hilula is every Kaf Hey Be'iyar, and I actually celebrate it in the United States, so you're welcome to join me. It's
Nice.
yes,
So you have a group that you teach like a weekly Yamima group, right?
yes. So I called it the heart wisdom because Yemima is Yemima, and her texts are respected the way they are. And the heart wisdom is more of how I come and I translate it into from my own perspective. And what I do, I bring it more into the relationship, because everyone, when you study Yamima, you can start teaching Yamima, because it's your own, you're bringing your own soul and your own perspective into the study. So the heart wisdom really bring it from a perspective of relationship, with our partner. That's why I try to focus that, because I know, and I know how shlom bayit is so important, and people don't put in enough intention and attention to this. So yeah.
Is that something Yamima talks about? Is relationships in marriage? Or do you just direct it in there?
Sometimes, but not all the time. It's very generally speaking, and everybody can take it to their own. So I take it to the marriage phase. Yeah. Because
I know that Yemima has very specific words or pidgamim, not pidgamim, like terms. There's certain words that she uses.
yeah, so to answer your question from
Yeah.
before, she has a terminology. She has a whole dictionary
Oh
with
yeah.
words. Yeah, so there's plenty of them. But the first one I will say is diuk. Diuk is precise, how to be really precise on being in alignment with, between your heart, your mind, and all your energy centers. When you're in alignment, then you can direct yourself into emet, into truth. When you're off alignment and you're not in diuk, then problems start happening.
How do you know when you're aligned? What would be an indication of alignment? Like, what would that look like?
First of all, you feel it in your body, either ache or, a muscle is tense, or you'll have a physical problem that you have to go to the doctor. But I usually try not to go to the doctors. I try because it's all emotional.
Hmm.
Like Louise says, is teaching us in her book, You Can Heal Your Life. And something is off. It's taking you out of your way.
Yeah. So are
When
you
you
saying that when people experience physical health problems, then it's an
also,
expression of an emotional issue? Is that what you're saying?
definitely, definitely, but also when you're not in alignment, you know that you're not in alignment because your subconscious know it, but you keep doing the same thing over and over, thinking that it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Then it grows
But
on you.
sometimes I hear that, but I think it's very hard to always stay aligned, right?
So
It's like you're center and you're always coming back to center, but it's very hard to always stay aligned, right?
that's why we have to do the work every day.
Yeah.
Not enough to pray or meditate or run or work on your physique once a week. You have to do it every day if you
So
want to be.
what would the work look like? What would that be?
Oh, that's the $1 million question.
Because it sounds like what you're talking about is a lot of like mind, body, soul. Like it's all integrated, right? Like the somatic healing, the energy, the voice, everything is integrated. But from what I'm saying is from Yamima's perspective, what is the core thing that allows a person to stay aligned?
I'll tell you what makes me stay alive, not from Yamima or anything else, but also Yamima also, it's she
Connected?
she has she's saying when you coming back to your heart, אישה שחוזרת לכוחה, לליבה, when you return to power, when you return to your heart, it's aligning you. Lama? Because when Tiferet, you know that. Tiferet is the center. When you go back to Tiferet, everything is aligning you back because this is the only Sphira that is connected to all of them, right? So the same way with the heart. When a woman returned back to her heart, that's when she's able to realign herself immediately. The way to do it is not being in suffering. The way to do it is living a life of pleasure. This is what I'm saying. Be in pleasure, be in simcha, be in oneg. Oneg is be passionate about everything you say, everything you do, everything you bring to your life. Like make your work not seems like work even 1 minute of the day. And when you start tapping on or bringing pleasure into your life, then your relationship with yourself is much more sustainable, and with your partner is showing because עולם פנימי משקף על עולם חיצוני. Whatever is inside is outside. So it's reflected immediately with your relationship outside of you.
Hmm. I love that so much because that's how I am in my life. I very much focus on bringing things into my life that spark joy. Does it spark joy in my life? Does it make me feel good? Whether it's an activity or a job or a project or a person or an event, anything that I bring into my life, that's my filter. Does it spark joy? So I love that so much because it's true. The heart is about pleasure. Like I feel like Hashem wants us to experience a tov u'metiv. Hashem wants us to experience goodness. And it's so easy. That's why I was saying before about being self-directed or inner-directed. The world outside of us, there's so much negativity that it's so important to somehow create a filter around yourself or a bubble to protect yourself from that so that you can stay in that state of and it's not like it's not a superficial joy, like it's so interesting because this is the month of joy, right? It's not a superficial joy. Oh, this makes me happy and that it's not about the
Not
outside.
external. It's
It's
not
not
external.
external, exactly.
Internal. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely internal. And what we tend to think is that, oh, he didn't do that to me, so I'm not happy. He didn't bring me flowers, so I'm not happy. But we always point outside for our own happiness. And what's happening when you point outside? You have two fingers going outward, but you have three pointing at you. So where do you take responsibility of your own joy?
Hmm.
So you're the only one who can make yourself happy. That's what I teach. How to make yourself happy, basically.
Yeah.
How the woman I can be complete and living in pleasure, and how as couples we can actually feel that we are complete and fulfilled. And also, Yamima, apropos joy, she's saying, when you're returning to, כשאת חוזרת לליבך ולכוחך, then the only thing that is left, נשאר לך רק להיות בשמחה. The only thing that you left is just to be in joy. And she also have a musag, a term that she's talking about the little girl and הילדה הקטנה והלומדת. So the little girl and the
The learner.
learner, exactly. And it's like, the lower self and the higher self, basically. So she always says, like, what point of view are you are you are you coming from right now? Are you coming from the little girl, which has pro and con? Because if you're coming like a little girl, you just said you feel happy and all that. But then there's a lot of little girls inside of us that are very like dramatic and want things for themselves and like running tantrums and stuff like that. So the most beautiful things about Yamima is to really be conscious
Mm,
of the way you're living and then recognizing where is it coming from and ask yourself question as it's happening so you can actually correct it from just reading the text or from experiencing it. And she's saying at the beginning of the introduction that as we start learning, the tikkun is already starting
mm,
with the beginning of the study.
mm.
That's already just by reading it, you're starting to elevate and questioning yourself, which is
So you're saying, if I'm hearing it correctly, you're saying that Alomedet is about approaching life through the lens of growth and learning and awareness. Like it's not enough just to activate your heart wisdom and feel joy, but to also experience life from the perspective of what can I learn here? How can I grow here? How can I be more self-aware of who I am as a person in the world?
develop, expand, enlarge the vessel so you can bring in more light. Because if
How do
you
you enlarge the vessel to bring it? I have an idea about that from my Kabbalah teachers. They use those words too. How does the Yemima talk about expanding your vessel so you can hold more light?
she's touching on svach, she's saying that our mind, our thoughts, and mesubachim, and they're all like interconnected,
Complicated?
very complicated. So she's saying when you start pulling those, it's like a
A
chutim,
thread? Thread?
thread, yes, you start like pulling them up and disconnected the knots,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
like more singular and slow and not that complicated, then one by one
Mm,
actually manage to it's like how should I say it? לנקות את הסבך זה to get more it's really like making the complicated simple.
simple, yeah.
And when you go into simplicity, which is the most challenging part for us because our mind is so complicated. All the thoughts, all the monkey thoughts. When you keep it simple, sweetheart, it's really you can get to your joy and you can see things as such a pure way, the way they are basically,
Mm-hmm.
without
Mm-hmm.
adding too much interpretation.
What does she say as far as living life? Because she was a very religious woman, right? Like you see a picture of her.
Became,
She had
yes.
she had a hat, she had a scarf, she was wearing clothes up to here, up to here. She was super religious.
She was tzaddiket, not only religious, she was a tzaddiket, and she was getting to a point at toward the end of her days that she was not even being able to teach and see people. She was teaching from above. She had a second floor in her house, and she was sitting upstairs, and she was just saying the words, and everyone was sitting downstairs because she couldn't be so close. I guess she was seeing too much.
Yeah, maybe she was picking up people's,
Yes, and
yeah. So what did she say as far as living a Torah life and observing the mitzvot? Did she talk about that?
she said that the Yemima is not about religion. She always said it was not about religion, but she always gave a lot, not some, but a lot of terminology that has to do so much with the Torah and so much with the religion that the more I start inquiring about it and studying about it, I get more close and close into
Mm,
my own religion.
that's beautiful. Does
Yeah.
she talk about Mashiach?
Um, I think she does in a few texts. Yes, because Mashiach is the same letters of Simcha, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, and she talks about bringing the light, the light, the light. So I think she has a chapter about that.
Is meditation part of the practice that she recommends?
I don't think she did ever meditation. She was like I have CDs of her with her own voice.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
So she's like a little French girl guggling all the time.
Yeah. She
It's so
laughs a
funny.
lot.
It's all, yeah, she's always giggling. And that it's funny because when I spoke to her son, he that was in Corona and he never answered the phone. Okay. He never answered the phone. And I called up and I said, I must inquire more about this Yemima. And he answered and he's like, who's this? It was like very, and
Tough.
I'm yeah. And I came, I was goggling and all that. And I was like, listen, I heard that, blah, blah, blah. People tell me that I speak like her. So I wanted to know and she's like, she's my mother. And you do sound like her. Why are you giggling about all the time?
That's so cute. That's
So
so cute. I've noticed that in general when I've been around like very pure, spiritually connected people, they do have a lot of this natural joyfulness, almost like children, like they're just living from that space of, it's just natural. It's just coming out of them. I love that. I would love to hear her speak. I'd love to hear her speak. I want to talk about a couple more things before we go. I know that you have a special retreat coming up next week on Monday. Is it March 17th, the date?
yes, it's a workshop.
A
Summer
workshop in Aventura.
in Aventura, March
Okay.
17th at 8 p.m. It's going to be a woman workshop only for women. And this is where we're going to come back to joy. To joy through what I said before, through movement, through vocalism, through joy, uh, through pleasure, and finding our own little pleasure through consciousness, through experiencing. And And I also hold couple workshops once a month. And what else? The study once a week. You're welcome to come.
The Yemima study, it sounds
And
amazing.
watch me.
Let me ask you, the couples workshop, I think sounds really interesting. I think that um when I first got married, we used to go to a lot of couples workshops because we
And
were
you told
living
me,
in
hey,
yeah, we were living in LA, and LA is like for some reason there's just so many couples workshops.
I guess they need
And
it more than.
it was so good. Like we learned so much. And I think that for people that are sort of like hesitating whether to join a couples workshop, I actually found that to be very calming to see
Yeah.
other people who also had similar things that they were working through. And sometimes when you see it in someone else, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. Like, and we learned a lot of really practical things that were very good to learn about. So I highly recommend it. So is the couples workshop, is that on your website also if people wanted to find out about that?
Yeah.com/booking. Everything is there. So the couple workshop makes it more accessible at a lower price to
Okay.
actually study everything that I'm teaching as far as kiruv levavot. And but I
It's
also
in
do
Hebrew or in English?
both. It
Okay.
depends. Sometimes I do group in Hebrew, sometimes group in English, depends.
Okay.
But it's amazing to see how the couples that comes together every time, they're like so connected in what they're going through, or like, because they speak their mind at some point, and they relate to each other in a way, even though each couple is doing their own work with themselves. But when someone is sharing something, the other one is like, oh wow, this is what we are experiencing. And so it's fun. It's amazing to see that every time there's a group by Ashgacha, they're already connected. And
Amazing.
yes, but I also
I think that's such an important thing to invest in is your relationship because I believe that the foundation of all society is healthy families. And in order to have a healthy family, you need to have a healthy relationship, right? And then when the couple is healthy and happy and balanced and there's love and harmony, then the kids are happy, the family is calm. And I mean, parenting is a whole other thing, right? We could talk about
I know.
parenting,
You know what
but
happened to me? I had a couple who actually reached out to me for their kids. They wanted to come to me with their own kids. They were asking if I do that. And I'm like, yes, I do, but I would like to see you first before. And when they came first, then they realized that their couplehood is actually a reflection of what's going on with their kids. So
hmm
before you bring your kids, start working on your relationship first. And then
yes,
by being who you are, you can
exactly.
actually affect your kids. So
Yeah.
Lucas doesn't have to come here. Oops. The guy doesn't have to come here, but they start doing the work, and it's amazing the way
Yeah,
it's
because you're modeling for your kids
exactly.
how to have, have a healthy relationship, which they go out into the world and then that, that changes, I think that changes all of society. I think it's like the foundation, families are the foundation of society. Healthy families equal healthy societies.
That's why shalom, global peace, start with shalom babayit. When there's
Yes.
shalom babayit, shalom in your heart first, you can radiate that and project it into the world. If we all,
Yeah.
there's chaos outside, especially what's going on in our own country, in Israel right now, but it's all start from within. And if
Yeah.
we start taking responsibility on the way we're being, it's automatically gonna project it outside.
For sure. And also, in the Gemara, the woman is called the bait. Like when they refer to the wife of someone, they say the bait, right? So it's really the woman is the heart of the home. We have such a big responsibility as women to be whole with ourselves
And
because,
Yemima is talking about it. When a
yeah,
woman, she'isha al tzira, that means her center, everything surround around her. So she can actually, when she's in her center, the whole house is in the center. When a woman is off, the whole house is off as well. And we can see it with our moods and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's why she always says, are you in צירך, את בצירך כרגע? And she's asking the question.
I
And
love
it,
that.
yeah,
It's
it's
beautiful.
we are women can build and we can I believe in the power of the woman. אישה
Me
יכולה
too.
ולהרוס.
Yeah.
I
And it just
yeah.
so happens this is the month of Women's International Women's Day in
Yes,
history.
yesterday. It's all related.
Yeah, it's all like in the air right now.
women, המון
Um,
שמחה, חודש
yes.
אדר, פורים.
Liat, this was so amazing. Thank you so much. It was such a joy talking with you about your work. Oh, and I know that you're giving a special promo for people who want to join the workshop in Aventura in Miami. They'll just use the code LOVE, right? And they could get a discount on to be able to join. And if
All about
anyone
love.
wants to, yes. And if anyone wants to learn more about what you do, again, you can go to her Liat's website, Liat, Liat, Berko, Berko.com. And thanks again for being here. It was really such a pleasure.
Thank you, רינה, it's a זכות. Thank you.
Thank
תודה
you.
רבה.
It's a pleasure.
Beautiful.